We are doing the first episode of our Haunted Kitchen series. So I brought some notes because I don't want to forget anything. It's not too long of a story. It's a short story. But today, while we're telling the story, we're also going to be showing how to make Muddy Buddies or puppy chow, depending on where you grew up. I call them Muddy Buddies. They're a great fall treat. They're fun for Christmas too. I've seen them a lot, like when people give cookies and candies and stuff, they'll always throw in some Muddy Buddies as well for gifts. So you can follow that along. I also have that posted separately on its own as a recipe below. So today's story takes place in Prospect Park in Redlands, California. So that's Southern California. It is in San Bernardino County, which we locals like to refer to as the Inland Empire, if you've heard that. But it is in Redlands, California. And it is, like I said, it's in Prospect Park, which is one of the oldest and largest parks in Redlands. It is a beautiful park, actually. It's used, there's lots of little walking trails that go throughout, and then there's areas in the park that you can stop and do like little workouts and stuff. But a lot of people come there for photo ops. I've seen engagement photos, wedding photos, prom pictures, homecoming, baby photo shoots, maternity shoots, like everything you can think of. It's such a beautiful place. People are there constantly to take pictures. We've even done so ourselves. So it's a great place. I grew up, of course, close to that park and in that area. And I remember running around there as a kid, and playing there. And one thing that's interesting about this park is it's got like very lush landscape, lots of palm trees, lots of all kinds of different trees and bush and greenery and all this. But within throughout the park, it's got these like patches of bamboo, which is so random to me. I don't know how it got there and why it's there, but it's there. And I remember as a kid, we'd play hide and seek, and you could go into like this little bamboo patch, and you could like kind of go into it, and then there'd be like the bamboo around you, like a little bamboo fence, and you could hide in the middle of these things. And I distinctly remember as a kid being in those bamboo patches and feeling like I was being watched, or like I wasn't alone, and I would get creeped out by it. And that always stuck with me. And I was a little kid then, so I hadn't heard this story that I'm going to tell you today. I heard that much later. I was probably like in high school or something when I heard that. And this was younger when I experienced that. So it's kind of interesting. I kind of got the creepy vibes then. But who knows? Kids playing hide and seek in a big old park, that could be scary too. So who knows? But anyway, this park was, I did some research on it, and I found out some of the local history on it. And this park was originally owned, it was given to the city by, I don't know who, as an 80th birthday present. So when the city turned 80, it was given to them as a present. And it was originally owned by two of the Redlands co-founders, and it owes the name, like the park name, to a hotel that was built there originally. So I guess it was the Prospect Park Hotel. That alone is probably worth researching. I bet it has some history to that too, and some scary stories. But today we're talking about Leanne. That hotel that was there, though, it's not there anymore. So, and originally also, before it was given as a gift, it was purchased from the Southern Pacific Railroad in 1881. And then it later became the property of John Breed. He was a local businessman. He was in the wallpaper business. And then he built the Prospect House that's now on the site. So, and then later on, Thomas England, he purchased the property in 1896, and he's the one that did all the landscaping, all the trees and the foliage and everything that you see that's there today. So, I've heard rumors over the years that dead bodies have been found there with no story. I've heard that, unfortunately, unhoused people have died there and been found, and I hope that's not true, but so there's always sort of like this other lore that goes on. I've also heard that it can be popular for satanic worshiping. Ugh, I don't even like to say it, but anyway, there's some places in Redlands that are kind of there's little urban legends about that too. Hillside Cemetery is another place that's known for that. We'll talk about that in another episode, but anyway, that's like the dark side of Redlands. But I personally, I've never had any experiences with that, seen that, whatever. But this is just what people have heard. But if I saw any of that, I run, because I don't mess with the devil. But anyway, today's story revolves around, there's a little park inside. I mean, there's a little theater inside this park, and it's a little amphitheater, outdoor theater. And it's the home of the Redlands Theater Festival, which is very popular. Lots of little plays and stuff that happen during the summer. It's popular with all the locals. But anyway, it does have a little theater, and what happens is people have claimed to hear footsteps running across the stage. They've claimed that they see the seats going up and down. They see shadows and shadow people. I read that online. I don't know what a shadow person is, if it's a ghost or what, but anyway, this is just what's been reported. And that brings us to the ghost of Leanne. So in 1960s is when this took place. She was 11 years old. Her name was Leanne, and she was walking home from Kingsbury Elementary School. Kingsbury is probably 6 to 8 blocks from the park, I would say, long blocks. And at the time, in the 60s, there was a lot of orange groves in Redlands. And so it's said that she took this shortcut from her school, Kingsbury School, to get home through these orange groves. But as far as Kingsbury School, this was, I went to Kingsbury School from kindergarten to 3rd grade. If I remember correctly, my dad also went there. But I could be remembering that wrong. I know that he went to the same high school as me. Unfortunately, he is no longer with us, so I'd have to ask my mom. But the original was built in the late 1800s, and then it was, I don't remember if the story was it burned down or if it was torn down, and then a new school was built in the 20s, and then that's the school that stands today. So that's the school that she would have been coming from. It was interesting. I was researching Kingsbury School for the story, and I read that Kingsbury School was the first place where the Pledge of Allegiance was recited by school children. And that tradition stayed, and it obviously, you know, around schools everywhere, kids were and are reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. So I hope that's true. That's kind of a cool little tidbit. But anyway, like I said, it said that she left school. She took a shortcut through some of the orange groves. Like I said, Redlands was full of orange groves at the time. Even when I was growing up, there was a lot of orange groves. But throughout the last just 50 years that I've been here, many of those orange groves have been torn down for houses, etc. It's just what happens. But they say that she took that shortcut through the orange groves, and she was taken from there. And I don't know how long they looked for her. I don't know. But it was said that she was then found at that theater. And I've heard that she was found on the stage. I've heard that she was found under the stage. So when I looked it up online, most of the reporting said that she was found on top of the stage. So, like I said, since then, people that have visited the park and the theater have said they've heard footsteps running across the stage. They see the seats flapping or folding up and down. There's lights around the stage area and throughout the park that are seen flickering. Bangs on the stage, thuds, your typical ghostly sounds and activities. But especially a feeling of being watched. People feel like they're being watched there. And that's exactly what I experienced as a kid in the bamboo patches. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Later on, when I had heard the story, I thought, I remember feeling that way too. So that's kind of creepy and interesting. But some people say that her spirit is still there. She's trying to find justice for her murder. I could not find anything online that gave me a last name, that gave me like a real story on her murder, or if anyone was ever captured and convicted of it. So I don't know. It could be a ghost story. It could be an urban legend. I know most urban legends are kind of based a little bit in truth, so it could be that. I don't know. But if you guys know more about the story, feel free to share in the comments. If you want to hear more about some of the local ghost stories of Redlands, I'm happy to tell you. I do know a couple kind of off the top of my head just from growing up, and so I'll bring a couple more of those to you in the coming weeks. But if there's a specific one that you want to hear, even if it's in, San Bernardino, Riverside, the desert, just surrounding areas, I'm happy to research it and talk to you about it. So if you stayed for the whole thing, thank you. I appreciate you. And we'll see you soon. Thanks for watching.